So here we are, right? Here we are on the biggest week of October, by far and away, potentially one of the biggest weeks on crowdfunding of the year. It may not be the biggest, but we have some absolutely smashing campaigns, and this is where your wallet is really going to get tested, folks, and that's why we're going right into it. That's why I'm not going to a whole lot of preamble. That's why I don't have a whole lot to tell you, except for the fact that I'm putting out a bunch of reviews this past week. Click above if you want to see my reviews for next week. Also, subscribe to my Patreon because they know what's coming out, because I just showed them about a dozen games, or talked about a dozen games that are going to be coming out in the future. So that's all I got. Let's go right into it, right? Number one. Maybe my number one of all year, Spirit Island Nature Incarnate over on BackerKit. I mean, it's more Spirit Island. It's more freaking Spirit Island. If you missed my review of Horizons of Spirit Island, slightly disappointed, but also slightly intrigued as well, go check that out. But this is going to be what everyone has been asking for in Spirit Island terms. More complexity, more layers, more fun, more ways to make your head spin in a good way from a cooperative game that's probably going to be one of my top 5, if not top 1 game of all time. And I'm pretty much going to be all in, I think, unless they kind of just have way too much deluxification or way too much plastic or way too much price point for what I feel like it's worth. Although that's not really been Greater Games' motto with, at least, you know, Jagged Earth, if we recall that one. So we'll see. I mean, always with a to be determined until price points and those sorts of things are to be revealed, but I would be shocked if I don't find myself backing that one. It's probably one of the biggest locks of the year for me in terms of just, I know I love it. I know I want more. I haven't played enough of it already in the first place. So it's going to be like Aeon's End that I'm just gotta catch them all. Anyway, so that's going to be sort of the biggest one up here. We'll pull up the page real quick, but BackerKit doesn't have a great landing page. BackerKit's landing pages are crappy. I'll say it. BackerKit, do something better. Anyway. This is it, right? This is the landing page. 20,000 people, which, you know, the only other thing that I saw recently that has 20,000 people following it is Elden Ring, which has also just been announced the launch date. We'll talk about that in a different video, though. That also has actually more than this already, but those are two different aesthetics, two different mechanisms, and two different, circles, if you will. This is all that's here, though. That's why I hate it. Like, at least GameFound page gives you a little bit more. So, you know, we're going to see what they got. New spirits, new aspects, new threats, new powers. Also, if you missed my review of Horizons, my biggest recommendation is Greater Than Games. Whoever else within Greater Than Games is associated with Spirit Island, whoever writes the names of the spirits needs a pay raise, right? They're always awesome. I could never come up with creative stuff like that. Do you know how hard I have to work to even get like a one-line thumbnail, you know, like of creativity? I'm horrible at that. So I give them a lot of kudos there. But anyway, that's enough Spirit Island. You can hear me pep talk and, you know, cheerlead this one all day long. I could talk about this one for another 10 minutes. In case it wasn't clear, also, that one's launching on the 18th. All of these right now that I'm talking about are launching on the 18th. And next up is no slacker either. This is Oathsworn. This is the reprint of Oathsworn. This is the hottest game of the hottest game, potentially since, I would dare say, Arc Nova. This is probably that level of hotness hype, and people are paying Godzooks amount on the secondary market for this boss battling, not really dungeon crawl, but scenario campaign game. And I haven't even cracked mine open. It's still literally in the box. I haven't even opened the shipping box yet because I have a whole host of other games that I need to get played that I'm behind on. So I'm working on that stuff instead of that. And I mean, yeah, will it come out? Yeah, eventually. But, you know, it's a balance between, you know, I don't get the big name review copies. Like I'm not a big name getting the super advanced copies of things like ISS Vanguard and Oathsworn and things like that. So, you know, I'm getting it with the rest of you guys, you know, as backers. And so when I do get the regular stuff, and then I get the other review stuff, examples of both of those right there, in case you missed the new background, I'm really trying to balance always how I do that, right? Like, games I want to cover, games I already own, games that are gonna maybe get a few extra clicks because they're the hotness. I mean, it's such a strange balance when it comes to that, right? And I'm still trying to figure that out. Speaking of things, expect this one in the next week. I owe these guys at Stone Circle Games a big I'm sorry, because these guys were the ones that sent me one of the first review copies I've ever gotten, and this is an absolutely fantastic game, and I'm going to rant on this for a second because I'm an idiot, and I did a whole review on this before I changed the whole setup, and I lost it in the transition of my computers, and then I just have to completely redo it because it didn't have any good B-roll. So this will be coming out in the near future. This is the best MOBA game on the market, and that's what you need to know about it, and that's why it's sitting in the background. One, so that you can see it, and two, it'll remind me to actually do it. So Oathsworn, right? But there's nothing new going back to Oathsworn. Nothing new, nothing new, nothing new, nothing new. Asterisks instead of the gameplay content. The gameplay content is not going to have anything new, but they're going to have some aesthetics, quality of life upgrades, they've said. So how do you feel about that, right? They're deluxifying it. I actually have the standee copy, so I didn't like the idea of those little miniatures with the changeable arms. That just, it didn't do anything for me. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Like, I stay true to brand. Like in case you're one of those people who's watching my videos and going, oh, he just talks about standees. No, that's freaking standees right there, right? This is standees. This is okay because it's miniatures, but whatever. But standees. I have the Oathsworn copy of standees. I got the Oathsworn copy of standees. I got the original Gloomhaven with the copy of standees, right? Like this is not like a one-time thing. Like Liege is all in on the standees most of the time. Take that for what you will. I've got Adventure Tactics sitting over there in the corner with standees as well. Again, another game I haven't done. Anyway, okay. So what else do you need to know, though? I mean, there's nothing else to know right now. There's not really any information. I reached out to Shadowborn. They reached out to me, back and forth when I was talking about my top 10 in Q4 video, and they responded and said, that's words coming straight from their mouth that they said, we're not doing any new content, gameplay-wise. So that's literally, a quote from them. It's not just me supposing. It's not just me guessing. It's words from them as well. So what else do we have? Well, you know what? Let's go to their page real quick. I don't think there's anything there, but we'll check it real quick. 9.3. They're pulling that out. Interactive legacy storybook, miniature boss fights. Here's the page right now. You can click over to it, and it has 13,000 followers, which is actually not nearly as many as I was thinking. But the price point for this is going to be a lot higher. So I could see this easily rivaling Spirit Island in terms of funding, because Spirit Islands isn't going to be as expensive. And if it is, wow, am I going to be in trouble? But that's a whole nother story. But it's Oathsworn, right? It's Oathsworn. Secret free box on day one. I guess that's the question. Is it the same free box or same secret box as the first time around? Or is it something for someone like myself that actually is going to have to get it then? So we'll see in just a few days. We have two more on GameFound here. Escape from New York, and this is based off of the movie, and this is sort of a 2 to 4 player game. I'm not really sure what to make of this one because the GameFound page really doesn't give a whole lot of details in terms of like how cooperative, how competitive. It's asymmetric sides. Like you're trying to penetrate this super heavy prison, and you're trying to do it with the hero side versus the New York side is what they call it on the page. And I'll just pull it up for you. So here you have, it's also launching on the 18th. I only found out about this one because it was on the GameFound page of upcoming ones. I had forgotten that it was coming out, and there really was no big announce date. So it's based on the John Carpenter movie, like I mentioned. It's from Pendragon Games Studio, and so I could see this one going either way. 1 to 4 players, 45 to 90 minutes. Find the president, get him to safety. That's the essential thing of what you're doing. Now, Kevin Wilson is doing this one. So although the how to play here is not as engaging as I would like, you've got a timer, you've got a certain number of actions, you can have a card that you're going to be moving, you can suffer damage from enemies, and then you can level up and activate stuff. Then you have the New York phase, and the current phase is managed by the current player. So it seems to be totally cooperative in that sense. 2 ways to win, 2 ways to lose, but that's all that's on the page. So this one I could easily see being like a sleeper hit of the week that might steal some money from the other stuff and might force you to look at something more than what you were expecting. But I have no idea what to expect of it, like how big a following this is going to have, what sort of information is out there. I would imagine that they're going to have a bunch of paid previews. I mean, we've seen a plethora, like the last 2 roundups I've done the last 2 weeks have just had tons more previews and paid stuff than there has been like not paid stuff, which I warned about a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago even, that we're going to see the rise of that, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. But anyway, Escape from New York also launching on the 18th. You know what? I'm not even going to go back to the other one because I'm just going to go back and forth and you're going to get sick of this. So let's just go over here to GameFound and see Trick Shot 2nd Edition, which is also launching on the 18th. Second edition of a dexterity-based hockey game. And they say there's upgrades, they say there's more powers, player abilities, arena abilities, things like that. 2 to 4 players, 45 minutes, that you sort of move your little hockey players around, control the puck, and try and score the most. So a few reviews here, a few previews, and that's all that's on the page. And it's tactical nature hockey. So do you want this? I know a lot of people are climbing for it and missed it the first time around, so I don't think it's been widely available on the secondary market or even from a retail side of things. So I think this one's going to actually be a surprise hit or a surprise amount of money that's going to get allocated towards this as well when we start talking about where that money's being spread in addition. So there you go. So I wasn't kidding, because it never freaking stops. Now, the next two also, I think, are going to be absolutely massive, massive money raisers, and I can see myself backing either one of them as well, because this is all launching on the 18th. This is literally the biggest week in crowdfunding of 2022, because I forgot even at the beginning of the video that these were launching. Next up, we have Race to the Raft from City of Kings. Isle of Cats. Basically, this is Isle of Cats, the cooperative, social, more maybe even deduction game. And that's crazy to me, because I love Isle of Cats and I love the idea of this, right? Like, I love Sorcerer City from Druid City Games. I love real-time games. I love deduction games. I love cooperative games. And this is the other one that, if it's priced right and if the gameplay looks as good as it may look in just based off of what we know right now, this is the other one that I may be mostly backing at this point this week. And that's insane to me, because I wasn't planning on backing a whole lot. And the next one up, even after this, is going to surprise you even more. And the fact that it's even this far in the video is going to be freaking shocking when I announce it. But let's take a look at the page for Race for the Raft. I'm losing my words because of how excited I am. Here's the pre-launch page. 3,000 people on this. Let me be clear. This is like a light game. And Frank West has done an absolutely amazing job with his products and putting them out there and making it consumer friendly. And 1 to 4 players, 40 to 60 minutes. And let me be very clear. This is, as it says, cooperative path building tile laying, right? I am going to be having a review very shortly out for Village Rails, which is an amazing tile laying game. And so, or path building game. See, this is how excited I am. I'm screwing things up. But look at this. This seems so cool. You're trying to build a safe route by placing pathway cards cooperatively. I am really, really cool with this. And it's 81 scenarios to choose from with a simple tutorial that you can gradually introduce and learn more as you go on and increase the complexity. Boom! I'm in, baby. It's going to be hard to avoid this one. And you can see I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. So what else then could make me that excited that I'm sort of trepidatious on, but also cautious on, and maybe wanting to go and maybe not wanting to go? Because that's what we're talking about, because Chip Theory Games is putting out a new solo, and this is where I'm hoping it's sort of not solo game called 20 Strong, where you're going to be having essentially 3 decks of cards that you're going to be basically doing like a solo solitaire card play game of trying to defeat cards as you go across, having 20 different dice that you're going to be rolling in combinations of different sided dice to be able to use to make it through all the way this challenging deck of variable difficulties. And they're using these different decks based on properties that they have, but also other properties yet to come. Intrigued? Want to get a strategist pledge? Me too. Anyway, here is 20 Strong coming on the 18th. So what is it? A deck-based game system capable of being played 30 minutes game system, because they want adaptable rules that can be played with a variety of unique decks, each with their own set of mechanics. They're launching with 3 decks, like I mentioned, Too Many Bones, Hoplomachus, and then a new one called Solar Sentinels. New decks in development, releasing them later. It's a solo-only game, but that could differ in future decks. And that's where they get me. Now, if they can concretely tell me more from that aspect, then I might be hooked as well. I have mixed feelings on it, though. How much is it, though? That's where they really kind of are going to potentially lose me, just because they're really going luxurious. One of these is going to cost you $30. All 3 are going to cost you $65. They're not offering the other 2 individually. But in their web store, they're going to sell them individually for decks later on between $20 and $30. So that's it. That's what you need to know. And that's why I'm super hyped about it. And I can see myself going either way. And it's one of those that I might just have to splurge on. Because even though I did not like my last splurge from Chip Theory Games, this one has real redemption for me written all over it. So where else are we going with this? Speaking of where, let's just go to where? Let's go to Uruguay. Uruguay, Pampero. Are we talking Pampero? We are. Chris is excited about Pampero because I'm supposed to be having this heavier game sent to me from Ape Games, so I can hopefully get a video out during the campaign. So I can talk to you a little bit. And this is what excites me about this, right? You've seen a huge plethora of variety in all these games, right? Like none of these are like, okay, dungeon crawl, dungeon crawl, dungeon crawl, worker placement, worker placement, worker placement, strictly Euro, strictly solo, strictly solo. I mean, there's everything across the board. We have covered literally everything so far, and Pampero is another example of that. And I love trying these new games because even though they're not always for me, I like providing more insight as someone who doesn't always play these games, right? Like, it's one thing if you go to Heavy Cardboard and Heavy Cardboard's opinions on Heavy Cardboard games, right? Like, but sometimes wouldn't it be better to know, like, if you're one of those people, like, if this game is really good for people who love this type of game, but is this game good for somebody who's not necessarily into this game? Is this game good for somebody who's looking to get into this type of game? And that is what I specialize in, right? Like, that's what I pride myself in, is sort of being an omni gamer when it comes to that. And so Pampero here, let's pull this up because you're doing, I believe, solar power in Uruguay. That's why I started with that. We kind of loop all the way back around here. And essentially, Pampero is a dry wind that goes across. They're trying to get rid of fossil fuels, and that's the basis of this game as a whole. And you're trying to do it from that sense. It's going live on the 18th. It's hand management, card action driven selection game. That's why I love it, right? A hand of 8 cards to be played on a tableau, 2 rows of spaces, activate actions on different sections of the board. And so I love the idea of that. Yeah, maybe it's gonna be too heavy for me, but that's also, you know, the tableau, action selection, tactical nature is stuff I love. And if it's not going to play for like 3 hours in length, I'm really kind of excited to see what this one looks like. Will I be as excited when I'm actually playing it? To be determined. But hopefully I'm going to have that in the next week or two so we can kind of see. You're adding farms to collect energy to power other actions, placing power lines. You know, it's a, you know, Euro game in that sense of I do this to do this to do this to do this. And how interconnected are you going to be able to do, and how interconnected are you going to need to be able to think in order to really enjoy this game? Because it's not about necessarily being good at a game like this, right? It's about enjoying playing a game like this, and that's what I want to see. Multiple avenues of scoring. It's their largest game yet, so I'm excited to see what this one entails, and as soon as I have it, you'll know as well from that aspect. Also, oh, did I mention the 18th is a big day? Oh, because that's also, we have recently announced from R2I Games, Road to Infamy Games, the third in the line of Canvas. I almost said third expansion there. That's why I hesitated. The second expansion, but the third in the line of the Canvas products. We are getting the newest and latest from them as well, which was just announced within like the past week prior to me filming this. So like we're getting like stuff closer and closer to the dates. I was going to say something else there. I won't say it. I played the original Canvas. It's a little bit too chaotic for me, but I feel like with some of the expansion stuff, it helps mitigate that. It's a shame I didn't get to play some of the expansion stuff, and I only got to play some of the base game to sort of get the feel of it. But it's one of those that I would happily play. I'm just not sure I would necessarily want to pay the price to own it always, because it is a little bit more of an expensive game, because they're more in lines with like Chip Theory Games Road to Infamy is in terms of the quality, in terms of the premium product that they put out, which is great because it's really good to see that stuff come out too. But it's definitely different than I was expecting, but it's a nice Zen game, if you will. The strategy sometimes is highly chaotic and highly variable, and that could be frustrating to people. But with the new frames that they're going with in this expansion, it's going to give hopefully a little bit more control as well as a little bit more mitigation. So let's pull up the page here. Here's the main page, finishing touches, adding a layer to the competitive player interaction, because that's kind of the issue too. If you're gonna be that chaotic, I would like some more player interaction. And so that's kind of cool. We have the pre-launch page here, which has almost 3,700 people again. Like people really love Canvas that love Canvas. I've seen a lot of people that really like this game. And so I'm not surprised at all with a reprint, a new expansion, and the aesthetic is cool. It's going to do well. It's going to raise hundreds of $1,000s. I have no doubt whatsoever. And you can probably get all the premium stuff for a little bit of a better deal. Road to Infamy putting out a good thing as well from that sense. So there you go. Again, another one that you've heard of, another one that you know of from a big name, a big line that's going to be getting lots of money. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see where that money splits and how it splits. And a lot of that's going to depend on price points, timings, and those sorts of things as well. Now, we're not going very far because you're going to recognize some of these other names. We have a few more in GameFound, we have a few more in Kickstarter, we have a few other things that are floating out there, but we're not done because Barbarian Kingdoms here is also going to be launching on GameFound on the 18th. Now, this is an asymmetric, tactically based sort of area control skirmish game that you're going to be going head to head with. Let's pull up the page because that's going to give you a better summary than I can right now. Here it is. You can see launching on the 18th. They have a big picture of the map down here. You're going to be kind of going through. It's going to be in 3 different languages. And this is what you're going to be looking like as you expand your army, develop your kingdom, and defend your lands from attack is one of the various 6 factions that are brought to you. 6 kings, 6 kingdoms. a little bit of everything. Is this going to be weighty enough? Is it going to be heavy enough? How is it going to be different in terms of other asymmetric, I don't want to say dudes on a map, but just area control with folks sort of game? Optimize resources. I mean, again, like it tells you all of the individual things it does here, but what makes this game unique? What makes it different than other ones? I saw a couple people talking about it after Essen about being a kind of a cool game, but I have yet to see more in terms of what it looks like from that aspect of things. And this page yet to have anything in that regard. So we'll have to kind of see what it does when it launches on the 18th as well. But this is one I could see doing really well. There are a couple like this that have launched on GameFound and Kickstarter in the last 6 months. But this is also one that I could see being more like Wander Le Hook. So that, you know, it raises a bunch of money, but also doesn't get nearly as much as it probably needs to. It's got 2,700 people following it, so that's a good start, but we'll see kind of where that goes. Next up, another name that you're going to recognize, and this is from Game Brewer. This is Delta, where you are in sort of a perpetual steam engine land where that has been designed, and only the crystals that power them are starting to run out, and you're having to find more crystals, and you're having to try to power the things that are necessary, and you're trying to do so while exploring the land, and there's going to be mechanical animals and things like that, and just all sorts of craziness across the board. This one is launching on the 17th. Sorry, I messed up earlier. Pampero is launching on the 20th, but this is going to be something different. Irado just put out his video. There's a couple other videos out there in terms of previews already on Board Game Geek. Let me pull up the page though, because it's going to give a little bit better aesthetic picture because it's like steampunk in nature. So you're going to be having some sort of modular board setup here where you're going to be traveling this delta, trying to collect resources, trying to manage your characters as they peruse, as they gather, and as they sort of area optimize. You're actually going to be doing contracts, so I'm guessing there's going to be some sort of pick up and deliver style of things as well. There's already a couple of videos out, like I mentioned, on Board Game Geek. So if you're interested from this, Game Brewers sort of had highs and lows lately. I think they had one cancel. I think they've had a couple succeed in this year. So we'll kind of see where this one falls for them. But it's launching on the 17th, so that's good. That's a day before the rest of these, but I can see it sort of getting overlooked too because all of these other ones are also launching at the same time. So take that for what you will. I could easily see a couple of these ones at the end here going either way. Now, I was going to be talking to you about Witchwood Destinies from Lucky Duck Games in this spot, but they got pushed back a week, literally just announced within the last like 24, 48 hours. And so instead, we're going to be talking about Aqua Garden. Aqua Garden now has an expansion, the Beachcombing expansion. We're going to be adding literal things from the beach that you're combing and you're picking up, as well as fish off of the beach to add to your set collection in this roundel-based mechanistic game from Uchiba Koya. You may recognize the designer as well as the company because they just also did, or the designer just did, Atlas Lost Rise of the Sovereigns, which just ended and raised a couple $100,000 on crowdfunding, similar to Aqua Garden. Now, I'll say with this, if you missed Aqua Garden the first time around, if you missed Ostia, the other game that just came with crowdfunding from this designer, I mean, they raised, 6 digits, and you can get Aqua Garden on the designer's website, but it's going to cost you a lot more. This is one of those Japanese games where it's not going to get retail, it's not going to get wide distribution. You may see some retail from the web shop, but I guarantee you, since the web shop's over in Japan, it's going to cost you probably a good 25 to 50% more if you decide to pick it up later, because this is one that's not been like super widely available on the secondary market either. It's just, it's got really cool meeples. Gameplay is, I've heard mixed things. Some people really like it, and some people are kind of meh on it. But this is going to be adding something else. And there's already like 3 or 4 expansions, or mini expansions that went along with the first base game. And I would imagine that there's going to be some sort of bundle in this crowdfunding came as well to pick up some of the stuff that you may have missed the first time around, or to get in on it easier than ordering from said shop in the first place. And that's launching also on the 18th. Then we have, up here on the 18th, we have a little tiny indie game called Unlockables. Basically, it's a mad science experiment gone wrong, and you have Voodoo Doll 2 to 6 player light engine building style of game. Asymmetric, unique unlocking abilities, playing tricks on your opponents, and perils of whatever called the Unlock deck is going to bring you. So just ran across it prior to filming this, so it's also launching on the 18th. Next up, we have Warcrow Adventures, also launching on the 18th. This is very interesting. A couple of videos already out on this one. The Board Game Geek description is probably one of the most generic descriptions I've ever seen in terms of what this game is, as like an RPG dungeon crawl-esque adventure game, and that's pretty much most of the information I can give you. Board Game Co., Quackalope have videos out there, so you can go watch them if you want as well from that standpoint, and you can see what it tells a little bit more, but even Board Game Co.'s title is like, it needs more, and unsure how to, clarified at this point. So take that for what you will. Hopefully the page will have a lot more information. Again, going to Barbarian Kingdoms, going to some of these others. Why am I getting your game over somebody else's? I need that information, especially in the dungeon crawl heavy saturated market that we live in nowadays as a whole. Also, going to the next one here, we have Super Sniper, and this is sort of a play on like the Sniper Elite game, but this is actually a 1 versus 1 style of game where you're going to be going up head to head in sort of what they say like a Tetris-esque mechanistic approach, and they say it's novel, they say it's exciting. You're genetically engineered soldiers trying to basically locate and take out your opponent while avoiding innocent bystanders and making the kill, and if you're the first one to get 3 kills, then you win. Solo mode, quick draw mode, duel mode, autonoma, real-time hostage situation mode. So take that for what you will. It's sort of this Tetris mechanic that they've got going on. I mean, I'm not really sure what to make of it, but also launching on the 18th, they've got almost 700 people following already, so that's kind of cool. Again, this one is one that's going to fly under the radar, and how well it's executed is ultimately going to determine where it falls launching among all the other skyscrapers that are launching this week. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. 2 more and we're almost done. First up is launching on the 20th as well. This is Black Mold. This is a premise where you're in this like underground prison labyrinth sort of system and you're trying to escape, but the surrounding environment is surrounded by black mold, this very toxic fumigation situation. And so it's trying to simulate what would be actually going on as you're trying to escape. And so your turns can only be done while you're holding your breath. No, seriously. Literally, your turns only go on while you hold your breath as you're trying to escape via various actions and mechanisms that are going to be at your disposal. And when you can't hold your breath anymore, your turn's over. So that's going to be the main thing that they're going. They're also going for the very noir, gothic vibe. It's all black and white, as you can see. And so that one's going to be launching on the 20th. We're going to see what it looks like. Again, sort of one that I could see, you know, depending on the audience, depending on the execution, going either way. And then last we have Heroes and Villains Battle Royale card game, which is also going to be launching, I believe, on the 20th. And it's sort of like a war-based card game with some asymmetry, powers, bluffing, they say Russian roulette, where you're going to be like playing these cards to do things and some take that. But then you can also like force other people to do things. And if they can't do them, well, then they like take a penalty. And so, yeah. That's what you need to know, right? And so that's what it's going to be launching, and sort of you know, a little bit of an under the radar game as well. I have another one on my list called Plan Z. I don't know where I got that from. It's probably one of those like random Facebook ads, but that one's going to be supposedly launching on the 20th as well, but I don't have any more information on it whatsoever, because that's where things are at. Sometimes I get like one a month of those where like they're not in Board Game Geek. It comes up in a random Facebook ad, and there's not really a whole lot of other notice about it from that standpoint. And so that's always fun to be talking about as well. So I don't know. Let's get on to the rest of the stuff. Campaign updates. Where did things go? Where did things end up? Where are things at right now? You know, Tainted Grail is about to end. We'll talk about Tainted Grail in a second. Harrow County is, you know, doing killer. If you're interested in Harrow County, if you missed my review of that, I'll put the link above. But I'm also going to be doing a solo video for those of you who are doing solo gaming as well, using Hester, the 3rd player character. So you can learn how to play Hester, but you can also use Hester as the individual solo character to go up against the other 2 family and you know, protectors in the game as well. So I'll be having that out hopefully in the next week and a half. So that one is doing well. Harrow County is doing well. Let's pull up the rest of the page and go from there. Oh yeah, sorry, almost forgot about this one. I apologize. Deep Shelf, this is launching on the 18th. This is, you're going down to the deepest depths of the ocean trying to extract valuable resources, but you're trying to sort of balance, you know, getting those resources versus stripping them. And if you strip them, there's going to be consequences, but you're going to get more resources faster. And if you let them develop, if you let them explore, and you sort of go a little bit slower, you're going to get benefits that way. So it's trying to balance both the exploitation, the exploration, the development, and the research side of things as you are a competing corporation trying to decide how quickly to go about and do all of these things. And how are you going to manage things? Pick up and deliver, scenario mission-based, tech trees, and variable powers are what you're going to be playing and going up against. The aesthetic is kind of cool. We'll see from Ninth Haven Games what they've got for us when it actually launches on the 18th. Now we will go over to the crowdfunding pages. Quick jibe here, going up some of the campaigns I talked about yesterday in the roundup video. Check that out if you want. I cover the most games in the most amount of time. Best amount of time. Wonderland's War, a little bit of a surprise, not really an expansion, but a replacement deck essentially. So it's an expansion, but it's going to give you something that you already have in the game, you're just swapping out decks for. So that was a little bit weird. I wasn't expecting to that, but that's okay. Deep Madness, I mean, it's got $227,000, but it's probably one of the hardest dungeon crawls out there that I feel like sometimes people, the biggest criticism being it's almost too hard. It's too hard. It's too puzzly. It's too much setup, takedown, everything else in between. Life of Amazonia. This is basically like if you wanted Cascadia to be a heavier Euro game, that's what I look like. It's more Feldian in nature. There are 13 ways to score each game that you play of 8 different actions that you're going to be taking on your turn as sort of a bag building resource management style game. So if that interests you at all, you should check that out. Then we have a trio from Board Game Tables, which again is almost at $75,000 for, small box games. They're doing well with Roll to the Top, which is a very unique rolling based dice game, rolling right. Pollen, which is a little bit of an area control tile placement game. And then you have Big Top, which is a very unique closed economy art bidding style asymmetric game. And it doesn't do it justice because Big Top is really unique in terms of its design in that sense. Then we're going to hop over to Age of Comics here, and we'll go to the individual pages for these to highlight them a little bit more. Age of Comics, the Deluxified Edition. It comes with everything in the base game. They've hit all their stretch goals. They come with all the little cards. They've got a war expansion here as well with creative cards that are going to be there in exclusive sleeve. I mean, it's got $150,000 as a very unique style of worker placement. So this one should be really interesting. I think this one's going to fly under a lot of people's radar. It could be a sleeper hit of 2023 from the worker placement style of things. Stifling Dark, the horror board game, again, a very unique gimmick. Really killing it, $100,000. If you had said before this launch that it was going to raise $100,000, especially with all the other stuff going at the same time, I would have doubted you. I would have had my serious doubts there. And so it's really proving me wrong. It's doing something cool. I just hope it's as good as it looks. It reminds me a little bit of a different version of like Night Cage, just with a completely different thing. Instead of you got like flashlights. So you got these flashlights that are going around illuminating this board, trying to uncover the one versus all asymmetry where you're trying to get away and get all the clues that you can before the murderer kills you. And so you have an asymmetric murderer of many different varieties that you can choose from, and so you can kind of see what your vibe is of which of the ones you want from that standpoint. They run through some of those, the gameplay, the everything there you need to know. Double-sided game board, the flashlights. It's unique. They've got some add-ons, and exclusives as well. You can see here that they've already upgraded how many players that are going to be in the game, as well as the cards that are going to be extras as well. So again, give it a look-see. It's doing something different from a one versus all, but that's probably also the biggest downside, is because it's not fully cooperative. It is a one versus all, I believe, unless they've changed it from when I first covered it a week or two ago. I mentioned Harrow County here, $138,000. I stand by my video. I stand by everything I say in my videos. This is probably the most well-rounded, complete, best Kickstarter or crowdfunding game I've played all year. It reminds me very much in the sense of Beast, where people are going to play this and then they're really going to like it. But if it's not for you, I mean, this is a best at 2. The third player is going to be an interesting dynamic, but it's going to be more like Root in the sense that you need to know those, and so it's going to be really easier for you to be able to play with 2 of the 3 factions rather than 3 people of the 3 factions and know that third separate faction. Because when I say third faction, it's actually really a 4th faction. There's actually a 4-player expansion that I know nothing about, the Fairfolk expansion. But like I said, I will be putting out a solo video if you're a solo player in the near future here. They sent me the print and play. I printed it and I'm going to play it. So hence print and play. And I'm playing as Hester right here. You play as Hester against, not the goblins, not the kami, as the protector and the family here. So I'll be hopefully having that out in the next week and a half or so as well from that standpoint. And I got plenty of time because the campaign still has 2 weeks left. So boom, there you go. That one's doing well. Honestly, I thought it was going to have a lot more money, to be frank with you, but the player count's very specific, and that's why I'd rather see it in the hands of people who are going to love it rather than, just like 3 times this amount and then like have a whole bunch of people get games they don't want. That is not my motto on crowdfunding. Redwood, again, this Redwood has almost as much as Harrow County, and if you had told me that when it launched, I would have been shocked out of my mind as well. This is a very expensive deluxification game, though. It is what it is, and that's okay. It's a deluxified, very beautiful looking game. Again, sort of reminds me of Stifling Dark. It's got a little bit of a gimmick there. It's got a very unique aesthetic, and it's just kind of cool. I'm not sure I want it right now, but it's one that's going to be definitely on my radar when it comes to retail. So they're going to be having big boxes here, and I think that there had some concerns here about whether or not that was going to be, changing sort of how things were going to go. And they're offering a new reward tier for a lighter big box that doesn't include add-ons, because the big thing I said before in the campaign was like they had this add-on or they had this pledge level that was including the big box, but like you didn't actually have a way to contain all the stuff if you didn't get like the higher pledge level, right? Like you couldn't get the box that contained everything if you didn't get that pledge level, which I thought was really weird. So they're addressing that. It's nice to see someone be responsive to that. And so it's good to see that Sit Down is doing that. So There you go, 16 stretch goals as well. And then speaking of the other most beautifully aesthetic game on crowdfunding, Leaf, this very textile, touching corners of leaves, getting powers that represent those, and then using that as sort of a resource management style game. Again, $110,000, which is freaking amazing. You can see how evenly the money is spread through this sort of second tier of games. I mean, I don't say that as a negative. I say that as, yeah, you're going to have stuff like your zombie sides. You're going to have stuff like your tainted grails that are going to be like head and shoulders above everything else. But this is great to see on crowdfunding because you have all of these. You know, I didn't even try and do this right, but you have 153,000 there. You have Stifling Dark here, which is at 112,000. You have Harrow County 138. You have Redwood 124, and you have Leaf 110. Right? That's amazing because they're all different games, and that's the theme of this week, of the upcoming ones for next week, is you're going to have the same sort of spread across the board, and even more of a wide and variety game mechanisms, conditions, themes, everything else across the board. And that's exciting because new games, new innovation shows people out there that you can do new stuff and still, you know, get support. That's it. That's all I got. That is the biggest weekend crowdfunding that I perhaps have ever covered, because you have so many big name games, so many big name companies that are all going up head to head at the same time, which is crazy, because I also think Cthulhu Death May Die is going to be launching the week after. I haven't announced it yet, but I have a feeling it's going to be launching the week after. Then you have Slay the Spire a week after that. Then you have Elden Ring at the end of November. You have a few other things that are also launching between now and the end of November, like Hidden Leaders, the expansion for that, which I have a copy of, which I'm going to have a video coming out in the near future of as well. So, I mean, you just have stuff like that that's going to be in like the $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 range, as well as the, you know, $1 million range. And it's nice to see a variety. It's nice to see all this stuff because, you know, I can pay for a $100 and $150 game, but it's nice to say, okay, Race to the Raft, I can pay for a $50 or $60 game and get that and just feel as good or even better than that in the future as well too. So it's nice to have that from that aspect. That's all I got. I need to go watch Rings of Power with my wife because we're only on episode 2. Yeah, I'm behind on it. We like it. We just, you know, kids go to bed and, you know, you kind of want to do your own thing at times. We're both introverts. We're both homebodies. And, you know, I play a solo board game or I do something like that. I watch a show or two and then she goes and does her thing and, you know, reading a book, watching a different show. She's watching Gilmore Girls, the new Gilmore. Get that out of here. I can't stand the dialogue there. They're like snappy at each other. It's like so prefabricated. It just makes me nauseous. What am I watching? I'm watching Cleo on Netflix, the sort of like Killing Eve German version, essentially, if you will. And it's pretty entertaining so far. I was watching a Chinese show on YouTube that's, you know, free on YouTube. It's called Reset. It's basically a time loop scenario where this girl and this boy are on a bus and the bus blows up or explodes or runs into something that causes to explode, both, and they get stuck in a time loop. And every time that they get blown up, or not, because anytime they go to sleep too, they get thrown back into the loop, and it gradually puts them out in the loop. They find out 1 minute earlier each time that happens, and so they're trying to figure out, well, one, should they just escape and not even worry about getting blown up every time and not even try and mess with it, or should they try and find out who's doing it? And when they involve the police, things, you know, they get suspected because you're calling in a bomb threat, and how did you know that, right? Like, oh, well, I've died 12 times on this bus already, and, you know, how well is that going to go over? So they've got some stuff like that on it. It's relatively engaging. It's not the best, but it's probably like B+. So that's what I got going on. I got kids soccer. By the time you guys are viewing this, probably I'm gonna have kids soccer games. My wife is, you know, having a meeting, so I got 2 kids soccer games going on at the same time. And then my father-in-law is coming over to watch the 2-year-old because their soccer games aren't until 12:45. The kid takes his midday nap at about like 12:30 to 12:45. So I was like to my father-in-law, I go, hey, do you want to swap? Because it's like supposed to be like cold and rainy on Saturday, and also like, you know, he's gonna go down before my kids even start playing soccer, and he only sleeps for like an hour and a half, and so like I'm looking at that going, I could be sitting around doing nothing, but no, I got to go watch the kids play soccer because it's still gonna suck though, because they're playing at the same time, which is great because then I'm not out on this wet rainy field for 2.5 freaking hours of most of my Saturday morning. But also it sucks because their fields are probably like 400 feet apart, 400 or 500 feet apart. And so I'm walking back and forth in about a 45-minute time span, about 4 or 5 times. And it's tough because sometimes they're playing and sometimes they're sitting out because of the way they like sub in and out and stuff. And so it's just like frustrating too from that aspect of things. But it'll be good. They both skipped soccer practice this week because it was hailing here. And we were like, you can skip soccer practice when it's hailing out and it's 40 degrees. No, thank you. You don't want to be out there. I don't want to be out there either. So we did that. But that's all I got going on. I just got to get some of this other stuff played. Oh, by the way, did you notice the new background? This one, coming soon. Maybe, if I can get the other stuff played too. I've got half a dozen other games sitting right here because I just did my Patreon video earlier before filming this one that they got to see this week as well. And so if you want to know what other things are coming out, because there's some other big things coming out and there's other big names that I have to talk about and I will be talking about. Bigger names, big names. But if you want to help support me, that'd be cool too, because, you know, I got that Star Wars game and I bought the Horizons of Spirit Island game, you know, at retail. So that's what the Patreon folks, you know, allowed me to do from that aspect. That's where their money went, and it allowed me to get that out and not have to worry about getting a review copy, or, you know, allowed me to get in a little bit sooner, which is nice for a change instead of always being on the coattails of everybody else. Ha! Not that I mind. I love riding coattails. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting a little bit cynical and sarcastic, and it's just fun sometimes. You can tell I haven't gotten much sleep. I got 6 hours last night. Anyway, that's all I got. I'm tired. I need to go get some food and watch something or play something and figure out what else to do with the rest of the night, because I don't have much time left before it's bedtime. And rinse and repeat tomorrow, right? Rat race. Let's do it. Cha-ching. Stay classy. See, I'm getting wacky at the end. That's what happens when those combination of factors get to me. But there you go. Thanks, guys. See you around. Oh, by the way, new title of a new series that you will like to see in the next coming weeks too. I think I got a good name for it too that fits the channel. Psst, psst, psst. PS at the end. Hit 8 in the comment section. Ha ha!